Peace and love, gamers and players. Welcome to my gaming landscape. That's right, I'm bringing this back to the video format, and I'm doing something a bit different, as you can tell. Right now you should be seeing some gameplay from a game. I haven't decided exactly what yet. However, I thought this would be more visually appealing to see as I talk about the games that I've been playing for the past 2 months or so. Yes, this is going to be covering what I've been playing from March 25th all the way to May 26th. Since my last video version of my gaming landscape, I returned to the written format because my computer broke down and I was unable to make videos for a while. However, those issues have been fixed and I'm now able to do this. And this kind of almost podcast-like format is something new that I'm trying out, even though it's not going to be up on podcast services or anything like that. But me doing a voiceover while later on recording some B-roll is, I think, the best way of doing this, especially since it would be way too much work to record footage of every single game that I am doing. In the future, I would hope to be able to do these episodes once a week. However, especially with E3 coming up as of the recording of this episode, I don't think that would be possible. But hopefully, as I get used to this, I'll be able to do so. So let's not waste any more time. I have a list here. The first game that I played was Soul Calibur 6, and I didn't spend a whole lot of time with this because I just wanted to play a fighting game in anticipation for Mortal Kombat 11, which I will be talking about fairly soon. However, I did jump back in because I had not gone back to the game ever since B2 was announced and made available. So I loaded the game back up and gave her a shot, and I can see why a lot of people like her because it's very easy to do really easy and flashy things. However, I don't like the maxi side of her, which is that she just kind of goes on autopilot after you mash a bunch of buttons and you kind of lose control of her. So I didn't end up spending that much time with her because I did not like her playstyle. But I'm glad I at least tried her out, and I'm glad I at least made the purchase. Next, I played Devil May Cry 5. I continued playing on the campaign with that. I am almost done with it. I probably would have finished it already. However, I got distracted by Mortal Kombat 11, which you're going to hear a lot more about. However, playing this game, it's fine in my opinion. I think the combat system is okay. It's more Devil May Cry. However, I'm rather disappointed with the way that they didn't really take advantage of the things that have been introduced in the action genre since the last Devil May Cry game back in 2008. At least the original series, which was Devil May Cry 4, not including DMC. And the things that they didn't include is stuff like a dodge mechanic or more combo potential within the characters by giving them more moves. Specifically, I'm really disappointed in the fact that they just did not learn anything from the fact that the Bayonetta series is now a thing. And they seem to have just let that series go by the wayside and affect nothing of their game mechanics, of their gameplay. And as a result, especially, and this is especially disappointing after DMC, the level design in this game is boring as hell. It's very drab, it's very lifeless, and I know that because it's in a destroyed town that's been evacuated, that it's going to seem empty, but it's to its detriment here because nothing about the place feels significant or a standout moment. It's unfortunate, but at the same time, as someone who has had issues with this series before, I'm not surprised. Next up, I rented Anthem from Gamefly, and not much to say about the game other than everyone is right. It's boring, it's lifeless, the world leaves very much to be desired, It's not a bad looker, but I also feel like it's still also visually uninteresting, even if it's technically sound. The world once again feels lifeless and flying around in your mech suit, whatever you want to call it. Javelin, is it called? I don't know. It doesn't feel enjoyable because there's not really much you can do with it. So, didn't spend much time with it. Mission structure was boring as well. But yeah, I ended up returning that after only a day or two. So, I played Far Cry 5 next, also on the PlayStation 4. I've been meaning to really get into that game, and I wanted to continue with my playthrough on that, since my previous attempt to record it for a Let's Play, or rather for a stream, didn't work. However, I went through a headquarters or a camp, whatever, and it took a long time for me to get through it, even with someone's help. And that kind of sucked the fun out of me, and I already put it aside for now. Perhaps the place was a bit too high level for me, but I just felt like it was way too difficult for a place where I was supposed to be heading towards anyway. The camp in question was on the way towards a story mission, and despite being on the way, it just completely overwhelmed me for a while. It took me like almost an hour till I was finally able to take it over. And it felt more like a grind other than I'm learning different things and what I'm making mistakes on. Didn't feel that way. So I'll put it aside for the moment. I'm sure I just had a bad play session, but there's so many games to play. I rented the Lego Movie 2. Specifically the video game. I know that's the actual movie, but the Lego Movie 2 video game, and it's fine. It has this kind of new mechanic where you have to collect this special type of block or whatever that allows you to do different kinds of maneuvers or something like that. It's kind of vague, and it's just kind of like a MacGuffin for being able to do something even though there's no mechanic for it. But regardless of that, it's another Lego game, and it's fine the way that it is. It's just, at this point, that series, the Lego Telltales, well, not Telltales, but Traveler's Tales series of games aren't really doing anything interesting anymore. And as a result, there's no real reason to play this if you've played any of the other ones. At the same time, if you're a fan of the Lego games, then this is just another one that should satiate you. It doesn't make it good, doesn't make it bad, it just makes it uninteresting. Next, I was able to get into the Mortal Kombat Online beta, and I had a great time with that, although I wasn't able to spend a whole lot of time because at the time, that weekend, I happened to be very busy. But I did play a little bit of it and enjoyed myself. I remember at that time feeling like the game was a bit too slow, and the characters that they had available, which I believe, if I remember correctly, were Scorpion, Baraka, Scarlet, Jade, and Cabal. None of those characters clicked for me, and so at that time I was worried about the game, but you'll see that has changed once I get to Mortal Kombat 11. But because I had played that online beta, I got kind of a Mortal Kombat fever kind of mentality to me, and so I kind of jumped back and forth between several Mortal Kombat games. I played a little bit of Mortal Kombat Deception on my PlayStation 2. That game is still fun, even if it's a bit janky now with hindsight. It's still fun. That's the thing, though. I still enjoy myself playing that game. A lot of people like to talk badly about the 3D games from the PlayStation 2 era, but I still quite enjoy them, and I think Deception is arguably the best one. I also played Mortal Kombat 1 in a couple of different forms. I first played the first game on my Xbox 360 via the Mortal Kombat Arcade Collection, and that's a good version of the game, but it also has a few audio hiccups. and so that was disappointing. But still fun. I did an arcade run with Johnny Cage, and it was fun. That game is still enjoyable, even if it's predictable because of the way that the characters move, where they move on a grid, which means it's very easy for the computer to predict where you're going to be at. You can, of course, use the same technique against them, but nonetheless. I also played Mortal Kombat 1 on my Sega Genesis, which in a lot of ways to me feels a little bit better than the arcade version, and I think it's because the movement feels a little bit looser, and although it's still on a grid, I feel like it moves a little bit faster. But moving on, I also played the first game as well as the second game and the third game in the franchise, specifically the Ultimate version of the third game, via the Mortal Kombat Arcade Collection on the PlayStation 3. They had a sale going on, and the collection was on sale on the PlayStation 3, and even though I had it on the 360, I decided to get it on the PlayStation 3 because I have an arcade stick for the PlayStation 3. And so I was able to play those games on an arcade stick, which I had not done in a very long time, and I had a blast playing fighting games on an arcade stick, although it takes some getting used to, especially for more input heavy fighters like Street Fighter or most fighting games today. It takes some getting used to. However, for more simple, just kind of hit the buttons and move in that direction kind of fighting games, the way that the early Mortal Kombat were, specifically 1 and 2, using an arcade stick is no trouble at all, and it feels great and it feels fun. Mortal Kombat 3 still doesn't feel too bad, but because it's a little bit more input heavy, I found myself making a lot of dumb mistakes and accidentally jumping when I meant to just walk forward, stuff like that. But regardless, still had a lot of fun. Makes me want to get another arcade stick for my PlayStation 4, since that's what I used most. It makes me want to get an arcade stick for every system that I own. But damn it, I am not made of money. Speaking of which, that weekend or so, I had a friend of mine come over and we played some video games. We played a little bit of Tekken 7. We loaded up the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection and played some Third Strike as well as some Alpha 3. And we had a good time with that. Not much to say other than we just kind of went back and forth between a variety of characters. He was also showing off his new hitbox that he got. I tried it out, as a matter of fact, and I was surprised at how well I was able to use it, but that is not my thing. I do not like the idea of having to move a character around with buttons. I understand that you can do that on PC, that fighting games on the keyboard is basically the same way. I still don't like it. Not for me. Give me an arcade stick. Give me a pad even over that any day. Around this time is when I was finally able to get my computer fixed. And as a result, I started recording some footage for future playthroughs. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this since you're going to be seeing them pretty soon on the channel. But I recorded some footage on long lost playthroughs such as Yoshi's Island, Dead Space, Mirror's Edge, and Final Fantasy II. And by Final Fantasy II, I mean Final Fantasy IV. It's the SNES version, the original one. So be on the lookout for those. Those should be coming within a few weeks. It might take a while to see some of them just because there will be a break in the videos because of E3. Instead, you'll probably be getting E3 videos because of that. And everything stops for E3 though, so this should not be news to anybody. But speaking of playthroughs, I also did record some footage of games that you have already seen, which is the Spyro the Dragon Reignited version on the PlayStation 4, as well as Bayonetta on the Xbox 360. So yes, I did play those games, and you can see that I recorded the footage and put it up on the channel, and there's still more videos to come. If you are listening to this, then you should know that the playthrough for Spyro is actually already done. So The finale has already been recorded, and you'll be seeing it. And if you watch those episodes, you'll also be getting a announcement about the future of that playthrough and the future of a couple of things on the channel therein. To be on the lookout for that. Okay, it's finally time to talk about Mortal Kombat 11. I got Mortal Kombat 11 at launch. The launch day, or really the launch evening, because I live on the West Coast, and games that come out on the East Coast first typically come out at the same time on the West Coast, which means you get to get it a little bit early. So I had it ready and loaded it up right at 9 p.m. the Monday before it came out. And I immediately went to the story mode, and although I was extremely tired that day from working all day, I stood up and played through the entire story mode that night. And I loved it. I absolutely adored that story. I thought it was well paced. I thought a lot of the fights were well done. And although it seemed like it jumped to and fro certain situations and just kept you there just so you could be fighting, which is still a problem that the NetherRealm story modes tend to have, they still made it pace rather well by making sure that they put in a lot of cutscenes that move the story forward. I would have liked to be able to play some of those, but most of them also didn't have you fighting in them at all anyway. So it wasn't much of a loss. I won't spoil the story here, although I'm sure at this point a lot of people have already spoiled it since the game has been out for over a month. However, I would just like to say that I love the way that it ended, and I am looking forward to the next game because I just want to see what they end up doing. I'll just leave it at that. As for the rest of the game, I can't speak too much about online because I still haven't done a whole lot of online because I've been focusing mostly on the Towers of Time and the Crypt. As of this recording, I have finally completed everything in the Crypt. I have unlocked every single chest at least once because I have recycled a few of them. I have unlocked every single door. I have opened every single soul cage, and I've opened every single heart chest, both normal and flaming. I've unlocked every part of Shang Tsung's island, including his throne room, and the gated area that's behind those 3 amulets that you have to collect. What are the Shinnok's, Chronicas, and Cetrion's amulet, I believe? I might be wrong about that, but I've done everything. And I have not even come close to unlocking everything. And that's sort of my problem. There was a big controversy with this game where people were mad into thinking that the game was microtransaction heavy. Part of me actually wishes it was microtransaction heavy because it is not in any way whatsoever. There is a store where you can buy time crystals that you can use to buy things, but the amount of things that you can buy is so small, even though it switches out every day, that there is absolutely no way you can unlock everything in the game by doing that. As a matter of fact, I'm surprised they even allow for the option to buy them because they're kind of worthless, these time crystals. But what this does mean is that the game is highly, and I mean highly, grind heavy. That's where the Towers of Time come in, and they constantly are giving you these ladders that you need to play through in order to unlock these skins and gear and backgrounds for your online profile and variations, and there's so many like little small things that are just kind of inconsequential. Like, you can unlock the picture that goes next to the variations that you create in the game. Variations being the moveset and the skin that you happen to have equipped, as well as the gear. That little picture is so insignificant. I'm surprised it's even in the game, but I'm sure that it was put in there just so there could be something else for you to unlock. It's frustrating, and even though I like the game, and I also adore the crypt and where that's laid out, I wish they would have taken that idea and applied it to something else, and then just would have had an in-game store where you can just buy the things that you want for coins, and coins you earn by doing literally anything in the game. That's the way I would have preferred it. Now, I will say that the rate that you earn things is much better than it was in the beginning. In the beginning of the game, for the first week or two, it was so grindy that it felt unrewarding to do the things that you were doing. However, now it feels a lot more balanced, like you can actually unlock things. But having unlocked everything in the crypt, and having done a lot of the Towers of Time to the point that I'm constantly getting towers that I've already finished now, at this point, it's starting to feel too random as to how it is that I'm getting things. The flow of content that I unlocked is starting to slow down to just a little bit more than a trickle, to the point that now I'm finally feeling like this is probably the most I'm going to get out of this game, and it might be time to move on. The only thing really left for me is the online. I should add that I've also beaten the game with every single character in the classic towers, so I've unlocked their endings. I've gone through all the tutorials aside from the character tutorials. Those character tutorials I've only gone through 3, because 3 characters are all that I focused on right now as my mains. And there's I guess the character towers in the Tower of Time, but that's just like a slow working through thing, because you have to like have 75 wins and 25 brutalities or critical blows or crushing blows or whatever. So that's something for the long run. I still find the gameplay, which I haven't mentioned a lot right now, so I'll do that now. I still find the gameplay to be extremely fun. The game is a lot more footsie heavy now, and as a result, it actually feels a bit more like Street Fighter. Now, as someone who's a fan of Street Fighter over Mortal Kombat, I actually welcome this change because of the way that they do combos and the way that they have the fatalities, and just the over focus on lore. It still makes it feel like Mortal Kombat, even if the gameplay, the base mechanics of the gameplay feel very different. I actually prefer this way of playing to almost any other fighting game. It's actually for that reason that I kind of begrudgingly say that this is my favorite fighting game of this generation. And I say that begrudgingly because of all the other issues that the game seems to have in terms of grinding, how monotonous it can get to unlock all these things. I have a lot of things to say on this game, and I haven't had the time to really formulate it and put it together in a cohesive way where I can get my point across. So I think I need to play more online, because that's the part of the game that I've been lacking in. Moving on, I rented a game called The Occupation, and this is supposed to be an adventure game made from the same people who did the game Ethel 1, I believe? Or Ether 1? Something like that. I started playing it, and I was very interested in the world, but I stopped only after I think like the second section. And the reason is because the game does not really control well on the PlayStation 4. It was very clearly meant to be played on a mouse and keyboard. A lot of the things that they have you doing require you to be way too precise. So I feel that a PC version, which does exist, would probably be the ideal way of playing that, and I wouldn't recommend playing it on the PS4 or on consoles really for that matter, unless the Xbox One version does something significantly different, which I doubt. Jump Force, I rented as well. Not much to say about that one. It's an anime fighter. They don't do much for me. This one is no different. Moving on. I played a little bit of Mortal Kombat Mobile on my Android phone because I was able to get a Chronica voice out of it. The way that it plays is almost identical to the way that Injustice and Injustice 2 and Mortal Kombat X play, which is to say competent but boring. I also bought and played Guilty Gear on the PlayStation 4, the original one, which was re-released, and as someone who has never played that game, I was actually rather surprised. It felt a lot more fluid than I was expecting it to, for a PlayStation 1 game especially. I didn't spend a whole lot of time with it though, because once again at this point I was still deep into my Mortal Kombat 11 obsession. That kind of still persists to this day. Gave Ace Combat 7 a shot. The gameplay to me seems pretty rote. Not much to really mention. You shoot down planes. It's fine. But it doesn't really have any kind of drive to it. There seems to be some sort of story that the game is trying to tell, but I can't figure it out. I've never played an Ace Combat game before except for Assault Horizon, which was, from my understanding, non-canon. So I know nothing about this series. I might have to look into it because I know it started way back on the PlayStation 1. I bought the collection of Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3 on PC via the GOG store sale. And those are very interesting versions of those games. They're more of a joke than anything actually playable. Well, no, that's not fair. They're playable. It's just, especially on the second and third game, there are just a whole lot of graphical glitches and things wrong. Up next, I gave Team Sonic Racing a shot on the PlayStation 4. And to be perfectly honest with you, that is not a bad game, but it is highly uninteresting and unoriginal. And that's interesting to say because it actually has a mechanic that has not been used that much, and it works pretty well here. The game is a racing game, a kart racer, that's focused on teams rather than individual kart races. So you are part of a team and you need to help not only yourself win, but your teammates place high as well. So even if maybe you don't place in first place, that's actually okay. It's just as long as one of your teammates does, or if your teammates just get high rankings in general. And it's actually done pretty well. You can hand over items over to your teammates. You can use their successes to your advantage by getting a boost off of their backdraft, as it were. And there's even like this mechanic where you fill up a meter and all three of your characters can get this really powerful, like essentially nitrous boost. So you can catch up or create a bigger gap between whoever happens to be behind you and yourself. Unfortunately, though, I found a lot of the tracks to be very uninspired and very bland, and especially coming from the last game in the franchise, which was Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, it is a big step back because a lot of these courses are just bland, predictable design choices, nothing really interesting, and that's ultimately what ended up killing it for me. It's not bad. I actually do still plan to get it for myself, but not anytime soon. I'm going to wait for a sale. It's not bad, just uninspired, despite the actually well done team mechanic. And I should know too, because I played the first race game I think that had this, or maybe it wasn't the first, but I played a game called Onrush that was also team based, and that game did not handle that mechanic well at all. It was very boring. This does it better, but unfortunately the bad courses bring it down. Next up, I bought, finally because it was on sale, Toe Jam and Earl Back in the Groove on the PlayStation 4. And it is basically the first game with some mechanics from the second game thrown in for good measure. And I like that. I didn't get to play a whole lot of it. I only really played about 2 or 3 levels. But I was enjoying myself. I should really make the time to play this game a bit more. And I liked what I played so far. And finally, I downloaded Super Mario Run on my phone because I was made aware that it actually runs on my phone now. Before, when it had originally came out, it was incompatible with my phone. Now it is compatible. And it's an endless runner. You just tap in and everything. It's a mobile game. What do you want from me? There's not really much to it. It's fine. Even with Mario being there, it doesn't really add much though. I had more fun with Sonic Dash. That's believable. And with that, those are all the games that I've been playing this month. And let's run down really quick some games that I bought. Not all of them I played, so that's important. I got these through sales, through the PlayStation Plus offerings of when they give you free games, as well as the games with gold and the Twitch Prime kind of deals that they have that's similar, as well as the Epic Game Store thing that they do when they give a free game. You get it. All these games are either on sale or got free because of some promotion or program that these companies have. So real quick, the PlayStation 3 got God of War Origins Collection. That'll be handy for whenever I decide to play through all the God of War games. Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter 2 on the Xbox 360. Prince of Persia 2008 on the Xbox 360. Tomb Raider Anniversary on the 360. Beautiful Katamari on the 360. That's a game I should really let's play. Katamari games are fun. Blue Dragon on the 360. The Witness on the PC. The Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind on the PC. Conan Exiles on the PlayStation 4. The Surge on the PlayStation 4. Star Wars Battlefront 2 on the Xbox 360. That's actually the original Battlefront 2, not the bullshit that EA has been putting out recently. Mortal Kombat 11 on PlayStation 4, obviously. Assassin's Creed Unity on the PC. I believe that was a free game after Notre Dame burned down recently. Or not burned down, but a big chunk of it did. Assassin's Creed Origins on the PlayStation 4. Transistor on the PC. What Remains of Edith Finch on the PlayStation 4. Overcooked on the PlayStation 4. Trials Rising on the PlayStation 4. Far Cry New Dawn on the PlayStation 4. Assassin's Creed Odyssey PS4. Earth Defense Force Insect Armageddon on the 360. Shadow of the Tomb Raider PS4. Majesty Collection on the PC. Stealth Bastard Deluxe on the PC. Whispering Willows on the PC. The Little Acre on the PC. Stories Untold on the PC. Guilty Gear on the PlayStation 4. The Sims 4 on PC. Rime on PC. Fear First Encounter Assault Recon on the PC. Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3 on the PC. It was a collection, it was a bundle. Toe Jam and Earl Back in the Groove on the PlayStation 4. And finally, Battlefield Bad Company 1 on the Xbox 360. Other than that, that is everything that I've been playing, and that's everything that I have added to my collection. And now I would like to know what you have added to your collection and what you have been playing. Please let me know in the comment section down below. And I will hopefully see you in a week or two. And let me know how you like this format for the gaming landscape. If anyone wants to give me any kind of feedback, I would very much appreciate it. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. I will see you next time I do one of these. Peace and love, gamers and players. Colorwind out.